everyone just wants to know what's going to happen with Nancy's love life.
I could see her not being with anybody in the end, to be honest. I don't think she's in a headspace for romance, really.
You are the true slayer and the hero, pretty much, of season 4. In my opinion, when you shot Venka square in the face, I was absolutely screaming. It was so good. How good did it feel to deliver that killer blow?
It was fun. It was fun. I mean, look, I'm not into guns in my real life, but it was a it was a really fun thing to do in such a like safe, controlled, like I mean the safest, so safe environment. But it just kind of feels pretty badass just shooting it. It's so loud. You get the kickback and everything, and it's really you're like, wow, this is not your normal day at the office. All of those kind of sequences are really fun to shoot when you get to be like, oh yeah, you get to be like a badass today. Okay, cool.
You're like, I'm just going to get my badass suit on. I'm going to get my in the mindset. Like, it was so good. And then at the end of all of that, then there's this huge cliffhanger. And we're all looking forward to the 5th season already. I mean, you haven't even started it yet. But if you could be in that writer's room right now, what would you want to see happen in the final season? If you could have your power and your sway, what would you want to happen?
Feels like every year Nancy just, it's just like bigger and badder, and she does, cooler things, in my opinion. And that's always fun. So I'm like, yeah, more of that would be great. But I think it being the last season and just such a journey for all of these characters from where they've started to where they are now. It's like, I think in my mind, I like it's completely impractical, but I'm like, I want a scene with like every single, I want to know where all these people stand. I want to see a conversation between these two people. I want to know what that person thinks of that. Like, honestly, it's a lot of just like, like the emotional character things are the things that I really hope that you can work in. Because in a show this big, with this many people and this much going on, these many special effects, those moments, you really kind of like, cling to those, because I think that's where the heart of this story is, and they know that, and I think they're going to do a great job. But I think I would just be, I think they'd be very annoyed with me. I'd be like, oh, but what about like these two people? Can they talk about this? Because they never talked about that. We never saw them talk about that. But yeah, we'll see. I think it'll be. I have a lot of faith in those writers.
I mean, they are geniuses, but it is a very treacherous place for characters living in Hawkins, isn't it? Do you ever worry that Nancy could be next?
I mean, yeah. I mean, for sure. It's very, it feels like they've survived so much up until this point that surely somebody, one of them does something that they just don't come back from. But yeah, it's always an option, isn't it? I mean, it'd be kind of sad to get to the final season and die then, I guess. But we'll see. Yeah, it's they're doing some pretty big stuff. It's amazing to me that not only have they survived, but they've also stayed in Hawkins. At least most of them have. Where it's like, when at what point are you just like, maybe we should move? Like, maybe we shouldn't live in this town anymore. It feels pretty cursed in a way, but they stick it out. They face it head on.
Yeah, it's probably time to move, really, given everything that's going on, but they just stick to it.
Just feels like there's plenty. I'm sure, like, we never hear about any of the surrounding cities, really. I'm sure they're lovely. I don't know, it's all Hawkins, isn't it? I think it's really funny that Nancy's still thinking about college in a way. It's like, she's been to another dimension, she's fought these monsters, and she's still like, no, I'm gonna get my degree. Like, this is where we're going.
But that's what I love about her so much, because she's never just like, I mean, traditionally in these kind of shows, she would just be reduced to being a love interest, but she is a very full, multi-dimensional character, and she's so integral to the plot. She's the badass babe who we all love. But do you still find it hard and challenging to find multi-dimensional roles like this still? And what kind of frustrates you as well about the kind of sexist way some female characters are still framed by audiences?
I think there's increasingly progress in characters and in movies and film and TV that just get, you know, looked at and funded and actually made. Because, you know, there's a lot of brilliant writers and you know, female writers, and you know, there's a lot of these stories that are just out there that, you know, it takes somebody kind of like financially giving it, you know, the time and the money and the energy to make it. I mean, yeah, I've read so many things that it's like, oh, this is just the girlfriend role, or this is just the daughter, or just, you know, these kind of like stock characters, and sometimes the dialogue, you're like, who talks like that? You're just like, yeah, one dimensional, you know, like either like they're very neat, or they're a messy person. And I think, you know, it's always nice to see films or read scripts where you're like, oh, that reminds me of my friend that I, you know, or me, like real, you know, real women who are very complex and, you know, have a lot of conflicting energies, or not just one note. But I also think it comes down sometimes to, you know, I really annoys me when people have like perfect hair or like perfect makeup when they wake up in film, or like their clothes are just perfectly. I think, you know, the way that we like just present women aesthetically, a lot of times has, you know, some work to do in the film world. But I do, you know, I do think there's hope. And like any of these characters in this show could have been one dimensional, but I think, you know, having this much time, and I think the doctors really love these characters and the actors love these characters, and they've had such a chance to like grow with all of us, which has been really nice. And it's not, you know, it's not every day that an actor gets the opportunity to keep returning to a character and like watching them go through this like longer journey.
And I think as well as that, though, everyone is still so obsessed with who she ends up with at the end as well. Like
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
just wants to know what's going to happen with Nancy's love life, and you're a bit like, I mean, she's also killed a lot of monsters, so maybe let's focus on that a little bit more. But
Right.
but like, is there someone you really want to ship Nancy with? Is there someone you're like, this is where I really want to see her ending up, and this is who I want to see her ending up with?
I mean, I'm loving this romance content that I've been seeing. People just really shipping that Robin and Nancy together. I think that's interesting and fun. Like, it's really hard to think about who she's gonna end up with. They're just, you know, it's just where do you go from here, and why does that? Yeah, I think like between Jonathan and Steve, or yeah, Jonathan and Steve, they're both very like, she loves both of them, you know, in different ways. It's like it's such a traumatic thing that they're all going through, that they're all bonded and they all care about each other, and there's so much there's so much more than just these, you know, romantic feelings going on. So sometimes it's just hard to think about, and I just usually leave it up until like, whatever, you know, the Duffers, I trust them. They'll, you know, we'll make it work, whatever it ends up being. You know, as an actor, it's your job. But yeah, it's I could see her not being with anybody in the end, to be honest. You know, I think it's just like so much to process what's going on, and I don't think she's in a headspace for romance, really.
She's got a lot of trauma to unpack, that is for sure. I feel like she's just going to bring the like Destiny's Child independent woman energy at the end of that next season. She's going to run off into the sunset and just follow her dreams, honey.
And you know, we've never really seen her single. She's always been with somebody, and I feel like, you know, maybe she has some single solo growing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she needs to go to
Be
some
nice to
clubs,
people.
kiss some frogs.
You know, yes, yes, you do. And you learn things. It's yeah, it's interesting. It's fun. It's funny that people, you know, think about that. But I get it. I think I get it. You know, we at the heart of it's such a strong emotion, like love and romance, to be attracted to in a show. So I get it.
I think it's just because people just love the characters so much. They just want to create this like happy ending for them. And it's
They're
so
really
clear that you
happy. Yeah,
Yeah, I want some happiness. We need some happiness in Hawkins, and like, and I think people just
for
love these
sure.
characters so much, and I think it's because it comes across as well that you are such a strong community behind the scenes as well. What have you learnt from growing up and growing into yourself alongside these amazing people in your life as well? And when has that community really helped you as well?
I think most of us came into the show quite green, um, in terms of our careers, hadn't worked on anything sort of this massive. And, we're working with really, the older actors in the show, like David Harbour and Winona. They're very talented, and there's a lot to learn just from being around them and working with them, and, just seeing how everything is conducted. And it is a nice set that's very grounded. But I think just the reaction to how the show, came out and really sort of was an overnight success, which still blows my mind a bit. But there was no, I think if I didn't have this group of people going through the same thing at the same time together, it's a very unique, specific experience to have. And I think the fact that all of us sort of experienced it together is really, you know, comforting and sort of lovely, and I think bonding in a way, because it was, it's literally like overnight sort of being recognized on the street, which for someone, I'm an introvert really by nature, so it's a bit like, what? So it's nice to have people to talk to and share, experiences with who understand.